Welcome back to the Highway 49 podcast, back with episode 129 of the show, here with my guy, Jay Grandison. Just gonna shoot the shit today, guys. It's been an interesting week. Was on some travel this week, just got back home this morning. Jay's been covering the Hornets all week, and the Charlotte 49ers got a ridiculous game this Saturday at number 4, Georgia. So we're gonna get into some of that, talk about some of the contract details from the game, presser from this week, some NIL and just kind of college sports talk. But before we dive into all those things, we're gonna hit the best thing we've seen this week. Jay, what you got, man?
Last episode I talked about, Dune Part 3 and you starting to see stuff kind of formulating for that movie. This time I'm going for the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan. He's basically doing like a movie based on Odysseus and a
Can't wait,
mythology.
bro.
Dude, it's insane because we're finally starting to see set photos from the movie. We're finally starting to like hear quotes because they wrapped filming. And one of my favorite quotes I've heard so far is Matt Damon saying like, you know, I was trying to imagine how I would have to act knowing that the sirens, if you don't know what the sirens are, it's like the three-headed snake in, in mythology. And usually you have to just act around it knowing they'll put that in green screen later on in the film. So it's not really there.
There.
And, and Matt Damon was just like, so Christopher Nolan just built it. And
Yeah.
I cannot wait for this movie. 2026 is going to be a great year. One of the best directors in Christopher Nolan. We got Denis Villeneuve. So The Odyssey, Dune Part 3. I cannot wait. That's the best thing I've seen this week. Hunter, you were in Miami. How about you? What's the
Yeah.
best thing you've seen this week?
Yeah, quite a few things. Before I dive into that, you made me think of something with Stranger Things coming out here in like a week, season 5. I saw an interview from Millie Bobby Brown. I don't know if you watch Stranger Things, but Vecna, the I guess villain in the last season and this season is another thing that is not CGI. Like the guy that I'm not 100% sure of his name right now, but he sits in makeup for 6 to 8 hours to get into costume, and then like Millie Bobby Brown was like the first time I saw him on set, I'm like trembling because it is as freaky as it looks in the show. That's how this looks in real life, and I just think it's sick. I love when directors do that and spend the extra time, spend the extra money to go the route that is realistic rather than the CGI. And I think you can see it. Obviously, it's easier on the actors to not having to look at something that's not there. So yeah, but yeah, man, just got home this morning. I was in Miami for a few days to see a friend of mine. Caught a Heat game this past night. Wednesday night, they played the Warriors. The Warriors G League squad, the entire starting five, pretty much sat out, which sucked. We talk about it all the time in the NBA, where it's like feel bad for fans at time who buy a ticket to the game maybe months in advance, and then you get there and the star or both the stars or whatever are not playing. So luckily, I waited until the injury news. As soon as Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Al Horford, the entire five really sat out. Tickets plummeted. So not bad, but good time. Caught up with Jameer Young a little bit, former Charlotte 49ers down there with Miami right now. He's not playing a ton, but I just think it's awesome. He's on an NBA bench, man. That's someone that friend of the pod, good dude, and fun to see. So that's definitely the best thing. But before we dive into sports, dude, we're sticking on the movie front really fast. You saw the new Leo DiCaprio movie, one battle after the next. Talk to me about that, man. What did you think?
Dude, one battle after another.
Yeah, I fucked up the title.
I wouldn't even call it a new movie at this point.
Yeah.
I kind of waited a long time. I had things going on in my life that I wasn't able to go see the movie at the time in the theater. And after watching it, I'm so mad I didn't see that in theaters, man.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies where it finished, and the first thing I did was try to review it on Letterboxd, and I was writing the review, and I just stopped and just like exited out of the app. I'm like, I need more time to sit on this
Yeah.
before I write down like my review. I need to like gather my thoughts on this movie because there's so many things happening. There's so many things that maybe I didn't catch in the first time, so I have to watch the movie again. But I mean, dude, it was an incredible movie. I Those are the movies that just make you feel like this is, I guess, a good like analogy for what we're going to be talking about with sports, where it's like that's the Georgia. When I watch one battle after another, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to say
Kirby Smart.
it. Yeah, Like that is the pinnacle of
Yeah.
filmmaking right there with Paul Thomas Anderson, one of the best working directors in the world right now. And you see so many movies that are being pumped and churned out every single week, and you're like, why aren't these like high quality? A lot of these movies look like they were made in like a Hallmark, like Tubi Christmas movie set. And then you watch one battle after another, and it like rekindles your love and your admiration and your passion for these things. So it was just an incredible movie, man, and I'm just upset that I waited so long to see it.
Yeah, like I took one film class in college. By no means do I feel like I'm any kind of an expert, but just watching like all the blocking, all the different shots in that movie, and just the way that also some of the scenes are like so much longer than they need to be, but every single scene is so intentional that you never feel that in the movie. And I just love that watching that. Yeah, glad you saw it, man. I was blowing your phone up like, yo, go see that shit immediately. So I'm glad you went, man. From there, you kind of brought up Georgia, the pinnacle of what football is, and there's a really good chance that team wins the national title. Charlotte will be familiar with them very soon. They're kind of ramping up to play them this Saturday, and I'll say this now, like we are not going to preview this game. If you're asking me how Charlotte can win this game, I'm going to tell you there's literally no chance. Uh, we are going to talk some of the contract details, some of the cool stuff from the game. And Jay, I passed along the story to you. I'm just curious your thoughts, man. You like this is a buy game. Like Georgia pays Charlotte 1.9 million. It's the most that Georgia has ever paid a team to come to play, and it's the most that Charlotte has ever received in a game. The second most being Florida 2023, around 1.55 million. So just overall thoughts, man. Like this is we talked a little bit about it off air, but the fact that this game is happening now, the second to last game of the season, Georgia's basically taking a week off from SEC play to host the Charlotte 49ers before they get ready to chase that national title.
Yeah, I drove from Charlotte to Gainesville to watch the 49ers take on the Gators a few years back, and they gave them a fight in that first half, and UF paid what, 1.6 for
Yeah, right
Charlotte
around
to
there.
1.6 for Charlotte to, come down there and basically have a scheduled loss. So I understand that the money side of it is going to do wonders for Charlotte, the school, the programs, everything. I understand all the positives from it. Trust me, I do. But part of me also just thinks like this is like a humiliation ritual. Like this, I don't see why this is a good thing, and I understand the 1.9. Please trust me, I understand that. But you're looking at it, and I'm just thinking like Tim told us he wanted to end the season by winning games.
Yeah,
And to end the season, you have two teams that are currently in the college football
in the
playoffs.
playoff. Yeah,
And as much as I'd love to say, like, oh, if the ball bounces the right way, no, like none of that is happening. The morale for this team isn't good right now. And I don't see how playing the number, what, 6 or 7 team in the nation is going to cure
number
that at all.
four. Yeah, 1.9 million. The headline of my article is Charlotte's got 1.9 million reasons to play this game. And that for a program like this is massive. We talked about it. But yeah, they are a 43 and a half point underdog, which we're used to the double digit lines this year. I mean, I think ECU is like a 28-point favorite. Now you get Georgia, a team that is literally one of the top five best teams in the nation, as I mentioned. One funny stat that I saw for the gambling contingent to listen to this podcast, Kirby Smart is 0 and 15 against the spread as a 38 point or more favorite. So Charlotte's got a chance. Admittedly, I feel like this is a game where Charlotte like kicks a field goal on the opening drive and then loses like 56 to 3. That's like probably where this goes in my head. Uh, like I said, we're not going to really dive into the game, but I do want to talk about some of the kind of interesting details because most of the sports books aren't even offering a money line option, which makes sense. You see that a lot with FBS versus FCS or just like super lopsided games like we're expected to see. So this is the biggest underdog that Charlotte has ever been, including the year 2019 when they went to Death Valley. They played Clemson. That's the Trevor Lawrence. I think T. Higgins was on that team. 2019, they go on to win the national title. Surreal moment. I went to the game, interviewed Dabo, the whole thing, and it was It's exactly what you thought it would be. I mean, Clemson had their starters out of the game after the first quarter. And that was the best Charlotte team that the 49ers have ever put on the field. That's Alex Highsmith, that's Chris Reynolds, Vic Tucker, Benny LeMay, Cam Clark. And there's that game ends 52 to 10. And to tell you how accurate Vegas was, they were a 41 and a half point favorite and they won the game by 42. So that's it all. It's nuts when I see stuff like that, especially in retrospect. But speaking of that year, 2019, that's when the contract for this game was signed. So July of 2019, Georgia finalizes the deal. Hey, we'll pay you 1.9 million. Come to Athens, about 3.5 hours, 200-mile trip in 2025. So I've had people asking me like, I got a question that Tim Albin's buyout's around 2 million. They're like, is it coincidental that this is that? No, the answer is no. And people have also asked me, hey, Mike Hill's payout's 2.1 million. Is that coincidental or is there anything going on there? The answer is still no. Like this was decided on when Will Healy was the head coach. That's just pretty much as simple as it gets with that. So a very different time, but Charlotte's gotten paid a lot from a lot of these games, and they're going to continue to. So the Clemson game I mentioned, Clemson, the Tigers played Charlotte 1 million for that game. And that's kind of how they schedule, right? Mike Hill was a proponent of that. He talked about playing at college football cathedrals once a year. So they played games against Duke. We talked about that when Charlotte got their first win. They beating Duke, losing to Clemson. Like this is they're 1-13 against Power Four teams, if my research serves me correct. So we know the outcome. It's good for the program. Like next year, they start a home and home series with Ole Miss, which is crazy. So not 100% sure if Lane Kiffin will still be their head coach, but as it's scheduled, the Rebels will be coming to Jerry Richardson Stadium to open next season, which is nuts. And then from there, Charlotte will go there the following year. And if either team is to back out, they got to pay $500,000. That's the only contractual obligation that I know of for that. So, like I said, they've got Ole Miss, they've got Louisville next year, they've got Ohio State in 2029. And then it kind of reverts back to they've got like Western Carolina on the schedule, Appalachian State on the schedule, NC State. So I think they're trending more towards getting back to local teams, which I think is probably the best. Like obviously Ole Miss is going to sell tickets, but we all know how that game goes. I think it's probably best for the regional rivalry side of things to bring North Carolina schools, do things like that, and I think that's kind of where they're trending. Anything else on that before we kind of get into the NIL side of things?
Not really. I mean, you kind of touched on it. They're kind of moving away from that, and I think that's for the best. I understand the money part's big, but I'd like to see them possibly start the season 1-0 instead of starting the season 0-2 before you get into conference play.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like even with the Biff Poggi teams, it's like I mean, Maryland and Florida in the non-conference, your first year as head coach is tough, and neither one of those teams even scratch what UGA is about to be on Saturday. I mean, just how it was in 2019 when they're going up against Clemson. Like I will never forget, Charlotte forced a fumble on like the opening drive of that game and had a decent return. It was like, wow. And then it got overturned. They called them down by contact or maybe before progress was stopped. And then Clemson scored like the next play. And it was like, oh, okay, that was fun. And that's how I feel like this one will go. So a couple more details, just because I was asked to write a story on it today. Georgia provided Charlotte like 500 free tickets for the game, complimentary tickets, and Charlotte could request up to 1,000 tickets from Georgia, and the Bulldogs set the prices for those. So a couple more interesting things, and I guess most of this is standard. So Georgia's paying for the officials. They do allow Charlotte's cheerleaders and mascot into the game for free, which I feel like is pretty standard. I don't know how often that's not the case.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of gladiators when before their fight, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna wine and dine you. Here's some wine. Here's some like the best food that we have before you have to face a lion in the Colosseum." That's
Yeah.
basically what this feels like to me. Hey, we're gonna do all these things for you. We're gonna roll out the red carpet for you in Athens, Georgia, before you have to face a team that is a contender to win the national championship.
Yeah. And for all the very hopeful Charlotte fans out there, I saw on Twitter today that Charlotte does have a transitive win over Georgia. I don't know all the way to get there. I know Tarleton State beat Army, Florida State beating Bama's in there, but yeah. So if you're holding on to hope, there you go.
Yeah, quickly, let's touch on this, Hunter. Charlotte isn't Kaiser Soze, right? They aren't like gonna trick you and be like, "Oh, I have a limp the whole time," and then they come out against Georgia and they're walking fine. Talk about that presser real quick, with Tim Alvin.
Yeah, okay. So I was out of town. I missed the presser, which if you listen to him on YouTube, you know that generally I'll probably ask 50% of the questions. And then we've got folks that kind of cycle in and out depending on the week, the opponent. And then there's some consistent folks in there. But yeah, Cam Williams decided to ask Tim Alvin if he would be watching any of the Georgia players during warmups, thinking, maybe he looks unhappy. He could be a Charlotte 49er next year. And I've asked some bad questions, some silly questions, and stumbled when I talked or voice cracked or whatever. But like, legitimately, that's a stupid question, dude. You're going to ask the head coach of a team if he's going to be scouting the opponent's teams looking for unhappy players to come to Charlotte next year. Like that, it took me out, dude. That was the hardest I've laughed in a minute at a press conference. And I thought Tim was very nice about it. He laughed, was kind of shrugged it off, but he did say, like, that's an interesting question. But no, I don't think I'll be doing that.
And we love you, man. And I'm not even gonna say that maybe there's an ounce of truth in like, hey, he's like, oh, this guy, he's like third string. Maybe we can give him some money. He'll want to be a starter in the American. That's plausible. Like that could happen. The part that you don't want to say is like, let me give them bulletin board material by the head coach saying, yeah, going into this game, I'm going to be scouting their players to come here. You get that clip, you send it to Georgia, and if you think the line's going to be 43 or whatever, that skyrockets up to like 61. So I saw that clip, and I understand, people have to ask questions, but Tim Albin showed some restraint there. You could see it in his face. He was like, "We're already, a 43-point underdog. I don't need to give them any more fuel to the
Yeah.
fire in this game."
Yeah, and for reference, there is a Georgia player on this year's team, Georgia transfer Colin Gill. He's a DB, so that's a little homecoming for him, and that'll be, you know, uh, probably a tough go, but fun to get back there. So yeah, that was funny. Tim Albin really didn't say anything super notable. He did say, we respect all opponents and fear none. He said that before. That's just kind of who Tim Albin is, and I think that's probably how you approach this game. I mean, you get your guys ready. For any NFL hopeful, this is your best shot to put good film on tape. If you have any production against this team, scouts are this is your proving ground, basically. It makes me think of that Clemson game in 2019 where Benny LeMay runs for 85 yards and that O-line is paving the way, and then Cam Clark gets drafted. Dimitri Emmanuel ends up at Florida State. Like this is a chance to prove against top end talent that you can play. So I'm looking at folks like Sean Brown, guys like that to make impacts.
Yeah, this reminds me of Ryan Osborne when we had him on the pod last year, where he's like, dude, you guys like we clearly know the coaches know going into a game like what's going to happen. I don't need you hammering it into me after the game. And this is a good example where like of course Tim Albin is going to say, dude, we are a good team too. Like we don't fear anyone. You're supposed to say that. Charles Lee for the Hornets,
Yeah.
head coach, when the Thunder came into town and beat them by what, 20 plus points, and I asked Charles Lee like, "Hey, how is it playing a well-oiled machine like the Thunder?" And he's like, "Well, we're a good team too." Of course, he's just having to say that, but come on, guys. We know there's definitely a different class in these matchups here.
Yeah, 100%. And that class always is going to go back to NIL. And we've talked about it off air a lot. Like the gap between the top schools, the small schools is going to continue to grow. And I kind of think that's a good segue into a little discussion here. So we saw a tweet
I can read it
from,
off.
okay, yeah, from Agent 49.
So Agent 49, what's up, Agent? Haven't spoken to you in a while. Hope you're doing well. He quote tweeted something. So I'll read the original tweet. It's from Charmillionaire, Pokemon enthusiast. Shout out to that guy.
Sir.
And he is a UAB fan. And he said, and quote, Pay for play has me really down on basketball right now, specifically at UAB. The entire roster turnover causes us to basically hire players to care about the program. It feels sterile and forced, and we play like it. I can't imagine what it's like coaching right now. And Agent 49 quote tweeted that and said, I'm down on all of it, if we're being honest. Not just basketball, football included too. And this is something that I've just been seeing and noticing and maybe having some flack from some Niner faithful, but it's just a really, really bad time to be a program like Charlotte, to be a program like UAB, to be any of these big programs, but not big programs, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we see it too, and I think it impacts things like I talked a minute ago about like local rivalries and things like that. Like used to when you're playing a rivalry game, you'll basketball, for example, you'll see similar guys for 3, 4 years, and that's what makes the rivalry fun. And now it's like this year, you're looking at it, Charlotte football, right? The only player that made any sort of impact in that game that was on the team last year is like Sean Brown. And it's hard to, I guess, go into it. Like, obviously, ECU was pissed off because they had lost 2 in a row. But this entire Charlotte team under a new regime with 70 basically new guys, it doesn't mean the same. And I mean, you heard that from Shea Taylor in media that week of basically like, yeah, I mean, we're gonna play them. And it's just like, yeah, we that game is gonna happen, yeah. But there's not, I don't know, there's not as much significance anymore in my mind.
Yeah, my hottest take right now, I guess, is just that college sports is really in a downfall right now. I used to, as someone, I always liked pro sports over college sports. I've just always liked the NFL and the NBA more than college football and college basketball. But when I would have these kind of conversations with people 10 years ago, their arguments are no longer valid today. Though their arguments are completely gone. And what I mean by that is 10 years ago, if you wanted to say college basketball or college football was better than the NBA or the NFL, you would say, well, these players aren't playing for money. These players are playing for an education. And because of that, they're pouring all their heart into every single game that they play. Now the players are getting paid, rightfully so. I agree with that. But that argument is now gone. Another argument people would say for why college sports is better than pro sports is because there are no like free agents and there's no like player movement. The player movement era didn't exist in college 10 years ago. And now you have, again, completely different rosters every single year. So the
Yeah.
reasons why people love college sports are gone now. What it is now, basically, is just a lower tier of professional sports. And this is what I'm going to say, which I hope doesn't give me blowback because I truly believe it. As much as I love the players that I'm about to mention. Chris Reynolds is awesome. We've had him onto the pod many times doing film breakdown. I remember watching a thing like Robert, like that guy is he's awesome. And Vic Tucker and Elijah Spencer and whatever. If they played in today's era, I don't think they'd beat 49ers for 4 years. If
Yeah.
Chris Reynolds was the quarterback for Charlotte 49ers in 2023 as a freshman and had the career that he had, I don't know if he'd stay here for 4 years. And I wouldn't blame him
Yeah.
because the landscape of college football doesn't allow you to have legends grow year over year and build a rapport with not only the program, but with the fan base as well. So whenever people look back at the old times, the glory days of Charlotte football, even if those guys played today, they I don't think would have been here for their entire tenure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, just to put it in perspective, like you brought up 3 people, Vic Tucker almost transferred before his final year of college football. And he probably should have because he took a back seat to Elijah Spencer and Grant DuBose and then didn't end up in the NFL. So you look at situations like that, and then Spencer hits the portal after the coaching change, going from Healy to Poggi. So it's there's definitely like for Charlotte's case, you're right. Like it's really hard to build rosters. And I mean, we see that on the basketball court with Fern. I mean, they've got 4 guys back from last year, 12 new dudes. And this team is better for sure, but there's like you're basically asking or inferring like I guess the UAB fan you mentioned said like I would not want to be in a coach's seat right now. And dude, I've said that like multiple times. I would never want to be a college head coach right now for that reason of like even at programs like Georgia, you've got guys who are on the second and third string that you want to develop and eventually be the guy, and they're like, man, screw this, I'm not playing. I'm headed to USC or I'm headed to wherever to fit in, plug and play next year, and that's what it is. So like Charlotte, for example, I mean, you're right. The 2019 team having Alex Highsmith, like he is just kind of an outlier, but the dude was literally an All-American. Like guys like that on the offensive line. We talked about Nate Davis before. I mean, there's so much talent that it was easier to concentrate then. And you look at Brad Lambert's level of recruiting. I mean, we've got a Charlotte fans should talk about that more, dude. Like he brought in pretty much all of the NFL draft picks that this school has had. Like Will Healy found Grant Dubose from Miles College. Shout out to James Foster for that. But yeah, Brad Lambert put in the work on the recruiting front. But that's totally different now. Like you can't get some of those guys that they got. And it's crazy when you look at Charlotte because the best players ever in Charlotte history are walk-ons that just were special, you know?
Well, that's the thing. You might still be able to get them as
Yeah.
freshmen, but you won't be able to keep them. And
Yeah.
that's the
See,
big issue.
see Deshaun Purdy, see Cartavius Norton, see, the list goes. Yeah, it's tough. Like I, in my opinion, I'm with you on the like 10 years ago, dude. 10 years ago, college basketball was like my life, bro. And now the only time I'm gonna watch is if it's to like scout out an NBA prospect that I'm excited about or covering a Charlotte game. With college football, covering Charlotte as a reporter, dude, it like every single year it's just a new batch. Like it was super fun from like I say 18 when I started through like 21, 22 when you had Reynolds, you had Tucker, you had DeBose, Spencer, Highsmith, like guys like Marquise Watts, guys that were around and you got to know and it wasn't just like, hey, I'm going to cover you for 6 months and then you'll either bounce to X school and we'll keep up and we'll have you on the pod, which we've done. But like it was definitely easier as a reporter and easier to like, I guess, feel involved, be more involved when there's, reciprocation. There's additional time to build and grow relationships just as a reporter. So I can't imagine as a fan, you know what I'm saying? Like you're just revolving door.
Well, yeah, as a fan, like let's just say, you are a fan of the Charlotte 49ers and you have a kid who's 7 years old and they see a guy like Marquise Watts and they're like, Marquise, you're my favorite player as a freshman, and you can see his progression year over year. Or Chris Reynolds, you're like, Chris, you're my favorite player, and you see the progression year over year. In today's landscape, you're basically saying, oh, Shea Taylor, you're my favorite player. 6 months later, Shea Taylor's gone. And I know that he's been in college for a long time. That might not be the best example, but you don't have that guy as a kid when you're looking at a
Yeah.
college team and saying, I remember him from a freshman to a senior. I remember being 7 when he joined the team, and I'm 11 when he's leaving the team. That's no longer there. You're 7 when he joins, you're 7 when he leaves.
And that's the thing is like this isn't a Charlotte gripe. Like y'all can't figure it out. This is a college athletics gripe.
College
This
football
is
landscape,
yeah,
of course.
yeah. And I don't know. We've talked about this off air a lot. So just having a discussion about it is like as in and in this, for example, like Charlotte doesn't have an AD right now. They have an interim AD, Jesh Humphrey, who talked about it. It's been over a month now. But like if you're taking this job as that next AD, like what is the next step for Charlotte? And that's a question that neither of us have the answers to. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
If we did, we'd be the AD. But my question to
yeah,
you, because we've talked about this before, is with that one transfer portal window,
yeah.
how much harder is it now to even do this? Because you talked about the Hornets game, we were just kind of chopping it up, where it's not only harder for the teams, it's harder for the players as well.
So yeah, and I was talking to someone in recruiting about this before last Saturday's game, the loss at UTSA, and it's interesting because for the players with two windows, if you know you're hitting the portal, you have kind of an extended period of time to gauge your value, right? You can say, hey, I'm a starting quarterback. I really don't know what they go for now. It's anywhere from a couple 100,000 to multiple $1 million. So it's depending on the level. But say I think I can get 500 million from a school, and you maybe have some offers, like nothing set in stone, handshake agreements.
500,000. Five hundred
Yeah,
thousand. You said
yeah.
500 million.
Oh, my fault. Yeah. A little different. Yeah. Thought it
That
was
Bezos
monopoly
money.
money.
That
Yeah.
Bezos money.
Trying to retire out here. Yeah, 500,000. And basically, you can kind of gauge offers, right? In the first portal window, see what you get. Now, going down to one window, players are trying to maximize what they get, and schools are trying to minimize what they pay. So it's going to be a little bit of a balance of power between, okay, we all have one decision to make this. And like Tim Albin, the main thing that he's talked about is getting players enrolled in school because school starts before the window closes, which, as a head football coach, that is what you should be saying because this is college football regardless. Where my brain goes is to that aspect of it, to where like, are schools like Charlotte going to have to overpay to get some of these guys, not just to commit to them, probably in like I don't know what you're going to call it because there's 100% going to be tampering. And Tim Albin has talked about that in his quotes. Like, you hit an exit meeting, like the season ends, what, November 30th or something. December is apparently a dead month. You can't talk. You're not supposed to talk. No one can come to campus, this and that. Like, obviously, there's stuff going to be happening there because the window opens January 2nd. So you're doing exit meetings with your players, like, okay, we can just use X player. X player, hey, we'd love to have you back next year. We've got 100,000 for you. What Tim Albin is concerned about is that player here's, okay, 100,000, that sounds nice. How about you, ECU? What do you got? App State, what do y'all got? Coastal, you guys were all right this year. Like, how about JMU? You guys need a backup? Like, and now through that month of December, which is technically dead, they're worried about tampering and things like that, pulling players from X school to wherever. So I'll be like, I think it's going to be kind of pandemonium. Like the transfer portal itself every year breaks records with how many players, how many athletes are in it across all the sports. And I think going to one, the biggest thing, and Tim Alvin talked about it, is you're not like being proactive with it. Like it's reactionary every time because the rules continue to change. And there's not a lot of give and take in it. It's like, okay, this year, January, there's one window. Will that be the case next year? Like, there's no clarity on it. And it directly impacts schools like Charlotte. Any school, I mean, it impacts every school, right? But schools working with smaller budgets now have to have their full revenue that they want to pay in the transfer portal ready by January versus January or December, how it was, and then again in May after the spring game when you're kind of putting your team together. So I don't know, it changes a lot. And like I say, I do not envy that position. And I do think it's going to be a balance of power between players trying to get as much money as they can possibly get and schools trying to spend as little to maximize the depth on their team.
Going back to your example, player X gets $100,000 from, let's just say Charlotte. Again, these are just hypothetical teams, players, whatever. Gets the $100,000 offer from Charlotte. Apparently, no team's supposed to talk to them for all of December, correct?
Right.
January 2nd comes along, and Charlotte's saying, okay, so are we good on that 100K? And they're like, it's 140 now. I can do
Yeah.
140. And now Charlotte's having to be like, well, we budgeted for the 100, but we can't lose the player for $40,000 more. So
Yeah.
now we got to pay 140. And now that stretches thin the rest of the money that you're going to want to have, which means you can't get the guys that you want. And again, this all goes back to that one portal issue.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. And while I just that UTSA game popped in my head. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to break the game down. If you didn't see it, you missed nothing. Charlotte scored one touchdown. Derek Healy kick return. The game was terrible. The offense is bad. And in my story, I said, hey, we didn't learn anything new. Confirm what we know. Charlotte needs a new play caller next year. Like watching their offense is as they're not they're not calling games, dude. They're just calling plays. Like Todd Fitch, in my mind, I don't see any creativity, and I said that to Tim Albin after the game. I literally asked him, and Sean Brown was available to the media, and I said, "What was the game plan? Like, you know you can't run the ball, but you're not doing anything to extend the run with the short game, with any kind of tempo, with literally anything. I mean, like Hannah and I sat there, and it was literally just like, what are we watching? Like UTSA left the door open the entire first half. Game is 7-0 at halftime. Like they were begging Charlotte, like, please, please compete. We don't really want to win this game. It's your senior day. Please compete. And Charlotte was like, nah, I'm out. I'm out on that.
Now, Tim Albin did push back on that question. What did he say, and was that a valid response in your mind?
Coach, just curious the offensive game plan. Listen, what did you guys see on film with their defense? What did you, I guess, try and attack?
Yeah. Again, they're a too high system in the back end, or our passing game was built around too high. Really, not a whole lot that we hadn't seen. You know, pressures for the pressures. Um, Obviously, they played two snaps a man today, I think, and they had a bust on both times. You know, they understand with Sean and Jaden. You know, the pressure was zone pressure. And, but again, that's the type of pressures that we got today with the coverage. That's what the running game is vital. You know, you should build it, dent it, you know, enough to beat you 4 or 5 yards. But we were, one-dimensional for 2 weeks in a row. And we're just not, we don't have the personnel to be right. So back to the game plan. There's a couple calls you'd like to take back. Got to feel pressure in the 4th down. Get a chance to make it a game. 7 maybe. 4th down, Grayson got pressure in his face. And he had a little screen on. That's tough on the quarterback. So I think I answered your question there, Hunter, on it.
Coach, you talk a little bit about like their creativity, setting up plays, building off that. We haven't seen a lot of that from your offense this year. Is there anything you would like to see different in that play calling, that I guess creativity side of things in these last 2 games?
Well, to be honest with you, Hunter, I think there has been some things down offensively that have built off. And we have moved Javen Nichols around quite a bit. Off the backfield, fly sweeping. And he's a decoy. So I'm going to call you on that comment. But to your point, some of those things, those wrinkles that I'm talking about, but we don't hit them. And if we're 2nd and 10, or for whatever reason, so if you don't have a lot to show, you don't really see them. But from a coaching standpoint, the creativity stuff's there. We're so limited, in the run game. And so we're having these last 2 weeks, we're trying to move the ball with throwing the ball. And we're just not built for that right now. And with Sean and Javen and EJ, Derek Ely, there's some things there as far as to throw it. But you're just, we struggle up front. And quarterback wise, it's not always fault. He doesn't have a whole lot of time. We're gonna have to continue to, coach him and see if we can't get the ball out quicker.
He talked about like some of the little wrinkles, and he talked about basically not having a run game, which makes everything harder. And I agree with that. Like if you can't run the ball, these linebackers aren't biting on play action. You're not going to get the shots that you want. Like I understand that, and I'm not here to tell you that, hey, if you give me the headset and the clipboard, I could go fix their offense. That's not what I'm saying. But watching what they're trying to do, I understand they're not playing with a full deck. They're playing with a backup quarterback. They don't have a running back that they feel great about. Their O-line is not where they want it to be. They're missing Johnny King. They're missing Henry Rutledge. They're missing Jade McGowan. All these players, like, I just want to see some semblance of hope, right? You saw that in the North Texas game. The first half, Todd Fitch is calling up plays. They're hitting deep shots. They're running interesting things, like enough fun to be like, okay, I see what's happening here. And then ECU, you put some points on the board, you dig yourself a hole, and then Saturday, your senior day game, your last home game. It's the thinnest crowd of the season, around 9,000 tickets sold. There was not 9,000 people there. Uh, you do nothing on offense, dude. I mean, like 3 and outs. The only red zone trip that you get at the end of the game is a pick. It's I don't know. If Todd Fitch is back next year, which like hearing what Tim Albin said, I kind of assume he will be. Like the leash is very thin. Like you have to succeed early in the season next year. And again, that goes back to, hey, you've got Ole Miss. Hey, you've got App State. Hey, you've got Louisville and the non-con rounded out with Citadel, and then you get to the American. So I don't know. I watching Charlotte. I mean, Mike Miller, his first year, 2023, statistically was better than this season. They were scoring about a point more a game than they are right now. I mean, this team is scoring less than 17 a game. They're not good in the red zone. They're not good at finishing drives. They're horrendous on third down. It's getting worse on fourth down. So they're having to go more, obviously, at this point in the season. So it's rough football. And playing this game this weekend, like Georgia's third and fourth string are better than Charlotte's starters. So I don't think Georgia's guys like Gunnar Stockton's not going to play the whole game. If you've never heard of Oscar Delp, look him up. He'll probably find the end zone this weekend. Like the Bulldogs are going to run rampant. Like I say with Charlotte, Tim Alvin talked about it. You mentioned earlier, like he wants the last game to mean something, even if it's trying to find a positive note into the offseason. And with that, I say like show us something on offense, whether it's tempo, whether literally just like show something in that bag because it's been like last Saturday's game was probably the worst I've seen from an OC this season watching this team. And so there's not really a lot there. So I don't know. It's frustrating, but that's why we cover other sports too, man. Speaking of that, one thing before we wrap up. So my work for the Observer, I pretty much came on here and told you all it would dwindle. It's been less, not a lot of midweek stuff, more just kind of game stories, things like that. And I mean, I've said it before, like the team kind of directly impacts my ability to write. Like if they're doing well, if they're having big storylines, big news, people want to click it, people want to read it, it gives me opportunities. So being a freelance writer, that's kind of the deal. So where you can find my work, because it's a few different places right now. Obviously, The Observer, 49ers, the occasional Hornet story. WFNZ every Tuesday on with Wes and Walker, talking 49ers, talking a little bit of Hornets. I've been working with this guy, Chris Jenkins, and Charlotte Vibe with the Panthers. Not a lot there, just kind of live tweeting for them during the game, stuff like that. But Chris is an awesome dude. What they got going on, trying to build the Charlotte Vibe kind of contingent is really cool. So check them out at Charlotte Vibe. And then Hornets with you, and then Matt Alkiza, man. It's been fun going on Locker to Leave It with you. And we've talked about it like I'm at all the Hornets games, so I generally tweet out stuff or post a little bit of content here or there. But it's been nice for me to like get on and talk to you, even if it's like a 10 or 15 minute pod after a game. So I appreciate you for that. And tell them where they can find some of that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Hornets have not been the greatest team to cover through 3 years, but there are at least some bright spots. And eventually, I'd like to incorporate what we do with that, the instant reaction pods with Highway 49, where we could just like immediately get out a 10, 15 minute kind of synopsis of a game. But it's a lot harder, I think, for football than it is for basketball. Also, because the Hornets Arena, we're both like 5 minutes away from the Hornets Arena. So we can get back, we can record, we can do things really fast. But we do want to be able to like have 49ers, more 49ers content to you. But again, that all hinges on people willing to listen to a 15-minute pod if the 49ers can put up a fight in some of these games.
Yeah.
Haven't been. Yeah, but you can catch me on Locker to Leave It. That's my own independent run, like media podcast thing. I've been doing that for a few years. But other than that, man, yeah, just appreciate Hunter having me on. And yeah, we're gonna keep going.
Yeah, definitely. And probably the coolest thing with the NBA this year has been, I mean, the rookie class for the Hornets has just been so much fun to cover. We know kind of the injury situation with LaMelo, with Brandon Miller, but then getting to talk to some of these guys like Lakers coming to town, talking to Austin Reeves, JJ Redick, Luka Doncic, and then this past week, you mentioned it earlier, OKC Thunder. Got a chance to have a one-on-one with SGA. That was super cool. Talk to him about Trey Man. I'm going to plug that here now.
He came into the league, like I just saw some potential in him. I really tried to take him under my wing. We used to like work out together and stuff. Then he just like he got better so fast. Not trying to say it was because of my workouts, but like yeah, he just like works super hard, has great intentions, a great human being above all. You know, I really miss Trey like on a day-to-day basis. That's my son. Me and Trey hang out in the summertime, all that. That's my.
So seeing him now, kind of there, he was kind of new in the league. Now he's kind of finding his role as a sixth man off the bench. What's that been kind of watching his career develop a little bit?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I'm just glad he gets the opportunity because he deserves it. You know, such a talented player, skilled player. He'll continue to grow with the opportunity. Puts the work in, and yeah, the world's gonna see what I see behind the scenes pretty soon, and we're getting a chance to see it with the opportunity. So yeah, I'm happy he's getting all that he deserves.
You got a favorite move of his?
Favorite move?
Yeah.
He got his snatchback from me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He loves a step back three. Like I give you the whole scout. That's from my young one. But yeah, he got a lot though. So it's like it's hard to guard. Like you can go left, you can go right, you can snatch, you can shoot, you can float, you can midi. Like good player. Yeah, that's one of my favorite players in the league.
Yeah.
Like every time Trey's playing, I watch Trey.
Yeah,
for sure. No doubt.
League pass team for sure.
My favorite league pass team is Charlotte Hornets. It's not OKC Thunder, man. Yeah, like I watch Trey 24/7.
But yeah, man, I don't know. It's kind of surreal at times. And I told you when we walked out of there, it's like sometimes it's not often where I feel like a fan anymore. Like it's nice to be a fan at home and you're watching with your girl or watching with your buddies or whatever. But like that was a time where I felt like a fan talking to SGA. Just the run he went on last year, the type of player they are. I think he's 14 games. He set out of 8 or 9 fourth quarters already at this point in the season. So yeah, definitely that was sick. But that's all we got for today. This was a lot of stuff just kind of jumbled together. So apologies for no real roadmap of the pod, but Charlotte versus Georgia, Saturday, 12:45, SEC Network, their 6th and probably final game on TV this year.
Yeah, and please let us know, whether it's comments, mentions, emails, whatever, just like what your thoughts are of not only the team, but of the college football landscape or NIL landscape in general. Because sometimes I come on here and I feel like I'm being, the sky is falling too much. But I also want to hear what the fan base's reception and kind of mindset is on this. Because as someone who covers a team, it is hard. But for a fan base that is like attached to this from a lot of
Yeah.
you guys from childbirth, right? Like your parents went to this school, your alumni, like it means that much more for you. So let us know kind of your thoughts on the situation and if you see kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that, and just the monetary side, like people's pockets are attached to this. There's donors listening to this pod. And what Jeremy said is, I mean, it's just accurate. Like you've heard Aaron Fern come on this pod and advocate for contracts. Make this player sign a 2-year deal, so at least in roster construction for the next year, hey, he's coming back. Versus now, it's like you got him for the season, and what happens next is just up in the air. So. We'll be back soon. It's college football, like I say, is kind of wrapping up for the 49ers. Couple more games at Georgia Saturday and then at Tulane to round out the season. But as always, appreciate y'all tuning in, and we'll be back.